I never thought I'd be the kind of guy to get played like this, but here I am, staring at a set of hotel room keys that shouldn't be in my wife's jewelry box. We've been together for 8 years, married for 5, and honestly, I thought we had a pretty decent thing going. Sure, we had our fights, but who does? The usual stuff. Money, her bitchy attitude, her constant eye-rolling. But I always trusted her. Or at least, I thought I did. About a week ago, I got a gut feeling that something was off. I mean, I'm not some paranoid guy, but there were little things. She was more irritable than usual, snapping at me over nothing, and she'd been hiding her phone more than she used to. I noticed her canceling plans last minute or ducking into the bathroom to answer calls. Nothing concrete, just vibes. Then, she started acting weird when I'd bring up her phone, changing the subject or snapping back with some smart-ass comment. That's when I knew I had to dig deeper. Last night, I came home early from work, just to catch her in the act if she was cheating or to find some evidence. I've read enough stories to know that sometimes all it takes is a little snooping. I didn't want to go through her things blindly, so I waited. Around midnight, she finally went asleep. At least, that's what I thought. I crept into her jewelry box, the one she always keeps on her dresser, and started looking around. I'd seen her hide things before, but I figured it was just her usual stash of earrings and necklaces. That's when I found something I didn't expect. 2 hotel room keys, one of them with her name on the key card. My heart jumped. I knew instantly what they were for. I remembered her mentioning a business trip she was supposed to take last week, but she kept brushing it off and saying it was just meetings. Now I had proof she lied. And not just about the trip, about everything. I kept digging through the jewelry box and there was something else. A small, crumpled note with a name I didn't recognize. But I knew who it was, James, my best friend since college, the guy I trusted with my life, and apparently the guy she'd been sleeping with while I was preparing to deploy overseas. I sat there staring at the keys, feeling a mixture of rage and heartbreak I didn't even know I was capable of. How could she do this? How could she just toss away 8 years of marriage for some late-night sex with my best friend? The betrayal hit me like a truck. I don't even know how long they'd been doing this. Was it during the last trip I went on? Was it the night I told her I was leaving for deployment? Or was it all along, and I was just too blind to see it? My mind was racing and I felt this deep, burning ache in my chest. I wanted to scream, to break something. Hell, I wanted to find them, confront them in that hotel room and see their faces when I told them I knew. But I didn't. Instead, I just sat there, holding those keys like they were a badge of her betrayal. I couldn't sleep after that. I kept staring at the ceiling, replaying everything, wondering if I ever truly knew the woman I married. How could someone I loved so much turn out to be a liar? Cheat? Then again, maybe I was stupid for not seeing it earlier. Maybe I was just too blind, trusting her because I loved her. But love doesn't make you blind to the truth. It just makes the betrayal hurt worse when you finally see it. I stayed up all night trying to decide what to do next. Do I confront her? Do I pretend I don't know and gather more evidence? Do I just walk away? Every option felt like a punch to the gut. The worst part is, I still don't know why she did this. Was she bored, angry, or just a bitch who hates being tied down? Whatever it was, it's broken something inside me. I honestly don't even recognize myself anymore. I used to think I was a good man, a loyal husband. Now I just feel stupid for ever trusting her at all. This morning I woke up feeling like I'd been run over by a truck. My head was pounding and my stomach was in knots. I kept looking at those hotel keys all day, trying to decide whether I should just forget about them or do something more. Honestly, part of me wanted to burn them, destroy every last piece of evidence, and pretend I never saw anything. But another, darker part of me just wanted to go right then and there, rip her apart with words and get some kind of closure, even if it meant hurting her back. I finally decided I couldn't just sit around pretending everything was fine. I needed answers. I waited until she was in the shower, planning my attack. I wasn't planning anything elaborate, I just wanted to confront her, see if she'd lie her way out of it or crack when I pressed her. But I knew deep down that whatever she said would be a lie. She's the kind of woman who can lie so convincingly it's almost impressive. Still, I had to try. When she stepped out of the shower, hair damp and looking annoyed, I just looked at her and said, "We need to talk." She rolled her eyes like I was bothering her. What now? Can't you see I'm busy? No, I think you're the one who's busy, I shot back. Explain these. I pulled the hotel keys out of my pocket and slapped them on the bed. Her face instantly turned pale and her bitchy attitude melted into something more like panic. What are you talking about? She spat, trying to act innocent. Those are just souvenirs or something. I don't know how they got there. Really, because I found them in your jewelry box along with a note with James's name on it. Care to explain why you've got hotel room keys to his hotel? She looked at me with that smug, I don't care expression, then scoffed. You're overreacting. Maybe I just kept those for fun, or maybe I was planning a surprise or something. You're just jumping to conclusions. I could tell she was lying. Her eyes darted around and her hands started to shake a little. She's always been good at lying, but I noticed a flicker of genuine panic in her face. That's when I realized she knew I'd found out. I pushed her. A surprise? You think I'm stupid? You're sleeping with my best friend and you think I won't find out? You're unbelievable. She crossed her arms, trying to act all bitchy and dismissive. You're paranoid. Maybe I was just having some fun. Is that so bad? I'm not some innocent little girl. I deserve to have some fun, too. That's when I hit her with the hardest part. Fun. You slept with him right after I told you I was deploying. You knew I'd be gone for months, and instead of being honest, you decided to screw around with James. How long have you been doing this? She snorted, rolling her eyes again. Oh, please, you think I'm some whore. You're just mad because I don't want to be stuck with a guy who's leaving for the army and I wanted some excitement. Maybe I was bored. Maybe I wanted to feel alive for once. That's when I lost it. All the anger, the heartbreak, everything just exploded out of me. I told her she was a bitch, a liar, a piece of shit that I'd wasted 8 years on. I told her she was a crappy wife for cheating and that her excitement wasn't worth the damage she'd done. She just sneered, acting like she was the victim somehow, like I was overreacting. Honestly, I felt like I was losing my mind. How could she lie so well? How could she tear apart what we built like it was nothing? I kept thinking about the times we'd argued about her bitchy attitude, her lying about small things, and now it all made sense. She'd been hiding this from me for who knows how long, and I'd been blind to it. It was like I was living in a different universe where she was my wife, the woman I loved, and now I was staring at this stranger who'd been screwing my best friend behind my back. I told her she needed to pack her stuff and get out. That I was done, enough of her lies. She just looked at me and said, "You're overreacting, you're just jealous or some shit. James is my friend and you're just insecure, you're making a big deal out of nothing." That's when I realized she'd never admit to anything. She'd keep lying until I forced her to or until I walked away. I don't even know what I'm feeling right now. Anger, sadness, betrayal, it's all jumbled together. I've lost my best friend. I've lost the woman I loved. And I don't even know if I should stay or go. I just know that I'll never trust her again. Not truly. And I'll probably spend a long time trying to forget this, but I doubt I ever will. After she finally packed her bags and left, I stayed in the house alone for a while. The silence was deafening. My mind kept circling back to everything I'd discovered, the hotel keys, her lies, James, the note. It was like I was living in some twisted nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I didn't see it coming, how I was so damn blind to the woman I thought I knew. The worst part is the emptiness. I'd built my whole life around her, around us. Now that foundation was cracked, shattered even. I felt foolish and betrayed, but also angry, not just at her, but at myself for trusting her so blindly. That's the thing with betrayals like this. You start questioning everything. Who was she really? Did I ever really know her? Or was she just pretending all along? I didn't sleep that night. My mind kept replaying every moment, the last dinner we had, her sneering at me when I mentioned the deployment, the way she looked at James like he was some kind of prize. I remember how her eyes looked when she lied about the surprise hotel stay and how she told me she was just having fun. That word fun now feels like a slap in the face, because I know she didn't mean harmless fun. She meant sex. With James, my best friend, the guy I trusted with everything. I decided I had to confront James. Not just for some petty revenge, but because I needed to hear it from him, his side, his explanation. I had to know if this was some drunken mistake or if they'd been at it for months. I found his number saved in her phone, but I hesitated. Part of me didn't want to face him. Part of me wanted to punch him in the face for betraying me. But I knew I had to hear him out. I needed closure of some kind, so I called him. His voice sounded surprised but not guilty, more like he was expecting my call. I told him I knew everything about the hotel keys, the note, her lies. I asked him straight out, "Did you sleep with her?" There was a long pause. I could hear him breathing. Then he finally said, "Yeah, I did. We did. I don't deny it. I didn't want to hurt you, man, but she came on to me first." That hit me like a punch to the stomach. Hearing him say it so bluntly, no remorse, no hesitations, just cold truth. And that's when I lost it. I started yelling, calling him a piece of shit, a traitor, a coward for screwing my wife behind my back. I told him how much I trusted him, how he was supposed to be my friend. His reply was just, "I didn't plan for it to get this far, but it did. Sorry you're hurt, but she's not the innocent one here either." That's when I realized I wasn't just angry at her. I was angry at both of them. James for throwing away our friendship, and her for tearing apart everything I believed in. I felt betrayed on every level, like I'd been punched so many times I couldn't breathe. It was a wave of emotion I couldn't control: anger, sadness, heartbreak, frustration. I wanted to break something, scream, do anything to make this pain go away. But all I could do was sit there, holding the phone, listening to his confession, and knowing my life had changed forever. After the call, I just laid on the floor, staring at the ceiling, trying to process what I just heard. I kept thinking about all the times I was away, all the nights I spent trusting her, and how she was out there with him cheating. It wasn't just about the sex anymore. It was about the trust, the respect, everything we were supposed to have. I felt hollow, like I'd been hollowed out from the inside. I knew I had a decision to make. Do I forgive her? Do I try to work things out? Or do I cut my losses, walk away, and start over? Honestly, part of me just wanted to disappear for a while, try to heal. But deep down, I knew I wouldn't forget this ever. Trust, like a glass, shatters into a million pieces, and I wasn't sure I'd ever be able to glue it back together again. But I also knew, whatever I did, my life wouldn't be the same after. This, those hotel keys, her lies, James, it all changed the game. And I had to decide whether I was going to let it break me or come out stronger. The days that followed were like living in a fog. I couldn't focus on anything except the way she betrayed me and how I'd been so blind. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her lying, smirking, sneaking around with James. Sometimes I'd catch myself thinking maybe she was going to come back, apologize, say she was sorry, but I knew deep down that wasn't happening. She had burned that bridge when she decided to cheat and lie like it was nothing. I kept going over all the moments I missed, the little things she brushed off, the times I caught her in a fib, the looks she gave James when she thought I wasn't watching. It all added up now. She'd been planning this, I was sure of it. She wanted to leave me, maybe even wanted to hurt me. Honestly, maybe she just hated her life with me and thought she could do better with James. The thought made me sick. I'd always thought we had some kind of loyalty, some kind of respect, but she tossed it all away for a thrill. I decided I needed to reclaim some control. If she was going to leave, I would make damn sure she left with nothing. I started packing my own stuff, not just to move out, but to take everything I cared about, photos, mementos, my damn life. I wanted to erase her from it, to reclaim what was mine. I also reached out to a lawyer, just to see what my options were. Not that I wanted to get divorced immediately, but I knew I needed to know where I stood. Meanwhile, I couldn't help but think about James. I kept telling myself I should cut him out of my life, but part of me still wondered if I was being too emotional. Maybe I should just forget it, move on, forgive her, and pretend it never happened. But then I remembered the way she lied to my face, the way she betrayed the trust I thought was unbreakable. I couldn't forget that. Not ever. One night I decided to call her. I needed to hear her voice, see if she'd try to spin some story. Or just own up to what she did. I waited until she answered and I just laid it out. Why? Why did you do it? Why, James? Why did you lie about everything? Her voice was cold, sarcastic, almost like she was amused by my pain. Look, she said, you're overreacting. It was just sex. It doesn't mean anything. I was bored and James knows how to make me feel good. That's it. I don't owe you explanations. You're gone for months and I needed some fun. You were never around anyway, so don't act like I ruined your life. That was the moment I realized she was never going to admit she was wrong. She was justifying everything, making herself the victim. That's typical of her. Bitchy, selfish, convinced she's entitled to do whatever she wants. I felt that familiar hot rush of anger. I told her she was a selfish bitch and that she'd ruined everything between us. I told her I was done listening to her lies and I hung up. That night I sat alone, staring at the wall, trying to process what I just heard. I felt numb and furious all at once. I'd always considered myself a good man, faithful, dependable, loyal, and she just threw all that away. The trust was gone. The woman I loved, the one I married, was a total stranger now. I kept thinking about James, about how he'd betrayed me too, my best friend. I'd trusted him with everything, and he'd just screwed around with my wife like it was nothing. I knew I had to make some kind of decision soon. Maybe I'd try to forgive her and work it out. Maybe I'd give her an ultimatum, or maybe I'd just cut her out entirely and start fresh. I didn't have any clear answers yet, but I knew one thing: this wasn't going to be easy. Moving on from betrayal like this takes time, and even if I decide to forgive or forget, a part of me will always carry the scars. I just hope, someday, I can look back and say I made the right choice. The weeks that followed were some of the hardest of my life. Every day felt like I was carrying 1,000-pound weight on my chest. I kept replaying everything: her lies, the hotel keys, James's confession, and wondering how I could have been so blind. I started noticing all the little things I overlooked before, like how she'd always get defensive when I asked about her phone, or how she'd snap at me whenever I brought up plans. It was like I was seeing a completely different person than the woman I married. I threw myself into packing up the house, trying to get rid of everything that reminded me of her. I didn't want her in my space anymore. I didn't want to see her perfume, her jewelry, or even her dumb bitchy smirk. I wanted to erase her from my life, or at least pretend she never existed. I also went to see a lawyer, got some advice on the divorce process, and started planning my next move. Honestly, I was just trying to stay busy so I wouldn't drown in the pain. One thing that kept gnawing at me was James. Part of me still wondered if I should reach out, confront him again, or just cut him loose entirely. I didn't want to keep obsessing over it, but I also couldn't ignore the fact that he was my best friend, and now he was just another traitor in my eyes. I decided I'd call him one last time just to hear him say it straight up if he was truly remorseful or just trying to save his ass. So I dialed his number one evening. The line rang and I braced myself. When he answered, I just cut to the chase. "Did you sleep with her?" I asked bluntly. He paused for a long moment, then finally said, "Yeah, I did. We did. I didn't want to hurt you, but she came on to me. She's the one who wanted it." His voice sounded almost resigned, like he didn't really care about the fallout anymore. I felt a mixture of rage and sadness. I told him how much he'd betrayed me, how I'd trusted him with my life, and how now I didn't know if I'd ever be able to forgive him. I said that I never thought he'd do something like this, especially with my wife, the woman I thought was my soulmate. His reply: "Look, I didn't plan for this. I never wanted to hurt you, but the truth is, she's not innocent either. She's just as guilty as I am." That only made me angrier. After I hung up, I realized I was done trying to salvage anything with him. I had to focus on myself now, healing, moving on, and figuring out how to rebuild my life without her. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. Betrayal cuts deep, and trust, once broken, is damn hard to fix. But I had to try. For me. Because I refused to let this define me forever. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, feeling more vulnerable than I ever had. I looked at the hotel keys again, the note, all the evidence of her lies. I thought about what the future might hold. Would I ever find someone who wouldn't betray me? Would I be able to trust again? Or was I doomed to carry this pain forever? I didn't have the answers yet, but I knew I had to keep going. I had to find some way to move past the heartbreak and come out stronger. Even if that meant starting over from nothing, I was determined not to let her ruin me. The days turned into weeks, and slowly I started to rebuild the pieces of myself that she shattered. It wasn't easy. Every morning I woke up with that gnawing feeling in my stomach, that mix of betrayal and anger that never quite went away. but I refused to let it define me. I realized that staying angry forever wouldn't heal anything. It was just a weight I didn't need to carry anymore. I made a conscious choice to cut out those who betrayed me, her, James, and the lies they told. I threw out her stuff, changed the locks, deleted her from every social media account, and started focusing on myself. I got rid of the hotel keys and all the evidence of her infidelity. It was a small act, but it felt like reclaiming my power. That's when I finally started to breathe again. Honestly, I learned a lot from this mess. I learned that trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it's almost impossible to put back together. I also learned that some people aren't worth the pain they cause, no matter how much you love them. The hardest part was facing the truth, that she lied, cheated, and betrayed everything we had built. But I also discovered my own resilience. I could survive this. I could go on, even if it felt like part of me had been ripped out. Now I focus on moving forward. I've started seeing a therapist, and that's been a huge help. Talking to someone who listens without judgment helps me process everything, and I'm slowly regaining my confidence. I remind myself that I'm better off without someone who would betray me like that. I don't need her or James to define my happiness. I'm learning to trust again, but more importantly, I'm learning to trust myself. Looking back, I realize I should have seen the signs earlier, the sneaky behaviors, the changing attitude, her dismissiveness. But I was blinded by love, by hope, by the idea that we could fix everything. Turns out sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes you have to walk away for your own sanity, your own peace. And that's what I did. I chose myself. So here's what I want to say to anyone going through something similar. Trust your instincts. Don't ignore the signs. And never let anyone make you feel like you're overreacting for feeling betrayed. You deserve honesty, respect, and loyalty. If someone can't give you that, they're not worth your time. I might be hurt, I might be scarred, but I am stronger than I ever thought I could be. And I know now that I'll be okay, even if it takes time to truly heal.